Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Houston Sports Talk back in the video today, and we're going to be talking about the Houston Texans and Nick Caserio, and if he is on the hot seat moving forward as the general manager, all the way going into the end of the regular season. We've talked about the possibility of Pep Hamilton being fired. We've talked about the possibility of Lovie Smith being on the hot seat and him losing his job. And, I just thought it was only right if we talked about Nick Caserio, a guy who's brought in these guys in. He's said these are the guys to lead our football team, and now that they haven't worked out, the offense looked terrible. Lovie Smith hasn't been the best coach either. He's not good play calls at all by the offensive coordinator or Lovie Smith. Bad coaching everywhere. And these are guys that Lovie Smith has brought in, so I know the McNair, he likes Nick Caserio, but you got to wonder if Nick Caserio's job is in danger. Personally, after firing two head coaches, your job usually is not in the best place after. So let's go back to 2020. He brings in David Culley. Nick Caserio brings in David Culley in his first season. Now, he does that, and David Culley didn't do that good, and he fires him. So now he hires Lovie Smith. And when you're a GM and you go through two head coaches and you have to fire some, and you have to go through multiple offensive coordinators as well and defensive coordinators, you got to think that possibly his job's on the hot seat too. Personally, if I was, which I'm not, if I was the owner of the Houston Texans, I fire everybody but Nick Caserio. I give him one more year. Trying to draft. I think this is a big year for the Texans. I think this is a big offseason for the Texans with the draft and free agency. I give him one more year to see what he's done. Some decent things. So if I'm Cal McNair, I give him one more year as the GM to see if he can do something different. See if he fires Lovie Smith. See if he fires Pep Hamilton, those are the moves that need to be. I think Nick Caserio is a smart man. I think he knows. I think he wants the best for this football team, and I think that Nick Caserio will fire both Lovie Smith and Pep Hamilton. And even though usually the GM will be fired too after something like that happens, I don't think he will. I think you go into the draft and I think you going into the draft. I think the Houston Texans, if they're going to draft Bryce Young at quarterback at 1, if they have one, and then with their pick from the Browns should be anywhere from 15 to 10. With that pick, I think they end up drafting either a wide receiver for Bryce Young or defensive lineman, defensive tackle, defensive end, either one for that defense to get better. And if both of those draft picks pan out and he makes some good decisions, free agency makes something that Nick Caserio's done is make trades, trading 6th round picks or 7th round picks for players that have low risk, high risk, low potential, whatever you say it, high risk and low potential, however they say that saying. But trading for a player that is, like, for instance, I'm going to go back to the Texans. They traded for Blake Cashman, who's been all right this year. They traded a 2023 6th-round pick to the Jets for Blake Cashman. This is a guy who could have been someone who had injury problems. He could have not panned out. He could have had a lot of injuries for the Texans, and they could have let him go. But instead, he's been pretty decent. I mean, he hasn't been all right, but he's been pretty decent. He's been good on special teams. He's been all right for defensively when he's been on the field. He's only started one game on defense as a linebacker, but besides that, when he's been on the linebacker, he's been good at stopping the run, and he's been great at special teams. So the Texans traded a 6th-round pick for a player that did pan out decently for what they gave up. Now, Nick Caserio needs to make a couple of trades like that, like he always has been doing. So I like those trades that he does, giving up 6th or 7th-round picks for players that can be decent to your roster, or they don't do well and it doesn't pan out and you have to cut them. But that's the That's the thing out of those kind of trades. Now, I think there is a possibility, like we saw the Titans GM getting fired today. I think there is a chance that if those, I think Bryce Young will be good, but if those draft picks start to not work out and those draft picks do not look good, and the team isn't good in 2023 late in the season, I could see him getting fired before the season, because if you get that second chance, that real lucky chance to come back, and you have 2 top 10 picks in the draft, and you have a couple good free agency signings, and those draft picks don't do well, which I don't think that's the case, because I think Bryce Young's going to be really good if the Texans draft him. And you have guys like John Minchie come back and a couple other dudes. So, and the team still isn't doing well. I don't see the Texans being that good next year. I see the Texans, if they make the right draft picks in the draft this year, and they get their wide receiver John Minchie back from leukemia. He's doing better. They haven't really talked about him coming back next year, but that could happen. It's a possibility. So you get him back. I could see the Texans going about 6-11 next season, maybe 7-10. I haven't looked at who their opponents yet. So maybe 6-11, maybe somewhere around that 6 wins, 7 wins, maybe like somewhere around the 5-12, maybe somewhere around the 5-7 wins for the Houston Texans. And I think that is a big progress from what is it? 4. What are we last year? Last year we were in 4-13, and then the year before that, and then this year it's looking like right now we're 1-11-1. Would be maybe we win one more game, if not 0. So 5-7 wins would be big, would be way different compared to the last 2 years. But we'll see if Nick Caserio gets fired. I don't think it's going to happen. I think he's on the hot seat, but I don't think he gets fired. We'll see what the Texans decide to do with that. That's it. That's it for the video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts on Nick Caserio potentially being on the hot seat, and peace out. Go Texans.